Oh, good evening, everyone. My name's Patricia, and I'm a recovered addict.
Patricia.
And I look around the room, then I look at the screen, and then I look around the room, and there's a lot going on in here, really. You've got the telly, the audio, the people, the movement, Dave leaning in, leaning out, leaning in, giving me this weighted thing that's heavy. And then there's me, and I sit in the room, and I've been looking at my big book. So I introduced myself as recovered because that was kind of the history that I was given. It's a story of thousands today, men and women that have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. And what that says to me is I have a mental defense against picking up the first one, and that took a long, 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 long time for me to understand that. I had 11 years in recovery, not really knowing if I was an alcoholic, because every time someone read the alcohol reading, I'd go, I know I say never, but maybe one day, and then the promises would be read. And it's like, when we work for them, I spent years saying, if we work for them, and then the inevitable happened. And it happened through my own dishonesty, thinking that I could live in a certain manner, sober in recovery. And the truth was I couldn't continue to live dishonestly in recovery sober. I picked up, and then I think I relapsed for 5 months from May 2020 to December the 20th, 2020. And I heard a man share a message, and it kind of elevated me off the sofa. And what I heard was, we have a way out. If you do what we do, we'll guarantee you 100% you never have to drink or use again. And I heard that. I'd had the experience of people in the rooms recovered, shouting with the big book, we have a way out, and big foot stomping and carrying the Chris Raymer message and on fire. And I'm sat there thinking, I'm just going to do what you do. And that's really what I do today. I just do what the person in front of me does, as long as they're doing the right thing, So I wanted to read a little bit just to focus me, because I'm in Ipswich. I live in Bournemouth. I got in the car today at 12 o'clock. I've drove here. The reason I've come here is because I have homies. I have Shane and Dan and Dave and Kate, and I remember faces, but I have no awareness of where I've met them from, but it's interesting. So it's really nice to be here. And when Dave asked me, I was thinking, Ipswich, Ipswich. I've got to go to Ipswich. And I've got a health condition that doesn't allow me to do much. However, I made it to Ipswich, because when it says willing to go to any lengths, I know what that looks like today. And if I've made it here today and I lie down and sleep all day tomorrow, so what? I've done my best today, because my recovery depends on today, and I don't worry about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I don't worry about mistakes I make, because we have a 12-step program that allows us to rewrite the script and start with a blank page, and so this talks about, we have been speaking to you of serious, sometimes it's on page 132, the family afterward, because I'm in addiction. I have sisters and brothers that have their own experience of drinking, heavy drinking, addiction, parents with experience of drinking, drugging, and then there's me in the fellowship. And I apply the family afterwards to us people, because the book's about us, not necessarily them outside. So we've been speaking to you of serious, sometimes tragic things. We've been dealing with alcohol or drugs in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. We try not to indulge in cynicism over the state of the nations, nor do we carry the world's troubles on our shoulders. When we see a man sinking into the mire that is alcoholism, we give him first aid and a place what we have at his disposal, which is here at the meetings. So I come here and I'm always hovering, looking for someone that's thick with sweat, dripping wet with alcohol, and guarantee I'll go up to him, put my arms around and go, you're dripping. But I'm known for that. I'm known for that. And that's what I love about me, because I don't forget. I don't forget the fear. I don't forget about what it's like relapsing, coming back, relapsing, coming back. Not that I went anywhere. I just had a drink, you know. For his sake, we do not recount and almost relive the horrors of our past. But those of us who have tried to shoulder the entire burden and trouble of others find we are soon overcome by them. So we think cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness. Outsiders are sometimes shocked when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic experience of the past. But why shouldn't we laugh? We have recovered and we've been given the power to help others. So I'm not sure why that book opened there, because as you can see, my book don't really get opened that bit, you know, maybe briefly on a quick flyby read. And so I'm Patricia, I'm a recovered addict. So my story is chaos. You know, chaos. I grew up in a public house. My parents drank. There was a lot of, I think, generational value abuse coming down, whether it's about behaviours or attitudes or experiences, you know. And I believe today I broke the chain with this program, you know. And so it's a quick history. I was a sex worker. I ended up groomed into prostitution in the West End. I was there from age 18 to 38. I used to take punishment for a living or dominate back. And that kind of fed me for years, because I liked the money, I liked the prestige, I liked the property. And I was going out for gangster until he had no money, no drugs, no guns, and was left with his underpants. And then I understood, don't matter what we've got externally, take it away, and we're just left with an emotion surrounded by a shell. And that's where I ended up. I dabbled with drugs throughout my life. I had a first drink at age 9, stole it, got courage, yeah. And then I stole alcohol at school, fags, bought my friends when I robbed from the till. And then used to go out every Friday night, get pissed, fight. And then, like I said, I left home really young because my environment wasn't savoury and I was desperate to get away. And when I left home, I was raped, let's put it plainly. And then after that happened, I went and knocked someone's door and said, I want a quarter of puff. And I had a bottle of brandy. And I smoked the puff and I drank the brandy and nothing happened. And that was that. And then somebody gave me a bit of speed. After me desperately saying, give me speed, they're like, no, you're a diabetic. I said, please give me the speed. So she gave me a little dab. 3 days later, I come around in the intensive care unit. I hadn't done my insulin, I hadn't slept, and I hadn't had any food. And when I come around, I got the family around me, you know, been brought in for like last rites. And I come around and I'm like, what happened? So what happened was I got discharged from hospital, and then the next weekend I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that again. So I did it again. But this time I did my insulin, I ate food, and I slept. So I was okay. And then it was a bit of dabble with this, dabble with that, dabble with this, dabble with that. And then I'm earning money, Charlie Big Potatoes, you know, West End girl, walking down the street, I was untouchable, really. I was very, very protected and sheltered. So if I put my foot the wrong way, it got kicked the right way. If my hair had roots, I was sent to hairdressers. If I had a bit of oil on my or food, if I'd spilt anything, I had to get changed. I was absolutely immaculate, and it was that way for 20 years, you know. And then he went to prison. I was left unattended. And I ended up dating a guy with weed, and I ended up smoking, like, it got to be about 3 ounces a week. I used 30, 40 spliffs, high tower, no cigarette, and just smoked it. And I was quite happy. Get up, 3 spliffs, go to the toilet, 3 spliffs, go to work, 3 spliffs, watch the TV, 3 spliffs. And then he came out of prison, called me stupid. So I stopped smoking it. And then I had a cleaner that put speed in my tea. And I like speed, so I've got lots of speed in my tea. And I ended up getting my own pub with my mum, and she didn't like it. So we ended up leaving the pub after an event, which led to me having to leave the country. And on the boat on the way over to France, I just threw the bag of speed and never touched it again. And then So the guy I was with, he smoked crack cocaine. Most of my money from the West End went on crack cocaine, and I used to sit in bed, and he'd roll spliffs, and I'd sit in bed night after night after night, wide awake while he's talking, and I'm nodding, and he's talking, and I'm nodding, and I was bewildered until I crashed my car and said, we can go to the showroom. And he was like, there's no money. And I'm like, what? And he said, there's no money. It's all gone on crack cocaine. And why I talk about this is because I didn't touch it. I didn't have any addictions or anything. He went to prison, and when he came out of prison, he hit me. He stomped on me, and it left me unable to do my job, which fixed my feelings and managed my internal condition, because I was irritable, I was angry, I was so hurt, and I had no funnel for my emotions, that me giving and taking punishment fixed my emotional unmanageability, which is what the book talks about, second half of step one. Because the first bit is powerless. That's about the drugs and the alcohol. But the second bit is about the unmanageability of the emotions. And this is a bit I really draw to today, because as much as I'm not drinking, I still have unmanageable emotions, and I have to be on point, because they're quick to happen. And when they happen, I act out, and then I feel shit about myself. And so that continues into my day, because it's the impact of what happened to me impacts my today, because it's tough. Where we come from, the lives we've lived, it's fucking tough, excuse my language, so anyway, so he came out of prison, stomped on me. I ended up pregnant. Something was wrong with the baby. I had to terminate the baby, and I was left destroyed because nobody noticed. And I found a pipe with recycling it, and I was just in this house, and I don't know how I was in this house, but I've gone in, and it's kind of like I knew what to do. So I've gone in, and I've took the foil off, and I've scraped this thing, I've put foil back on, put bit, and I found, and I've put this scrapings on top, and I lit it. And when I lit it, it was like, and I had never, ever, ever experienced anything like that in my life. It was such a stillness, such a peace. It was very familiar. And then I remembered back to the time I'm 18, 19, 20, 21, in my bed, being kept wide awake by this guy smoking crack. And that was the familiarity. I believe I'd been a crackhead since age 18, since he was smoking it, because it just kept me in line. So when I found that drug, it was all bets are off, because I'm quite timid, I'm quite shy. However, if you put me on a table in a pub with a drink and the music's on, it changes. Yeah, and I'm like that sober. But when I'm using or drinking, it becomes dangerous, because there'll be 13 people in the room, and you will give me your drugs. And I will sit there and go, anybody wants some? And I'll control, because I can't stand the noise. Give me a light, give me this, give me that. I can't stand that kind of environment. So I kind of ended up holding the fort as such. And in the using, I ended up losing my mind, leaving my house, going on the street. And when I was on the street, I arrived in a Mercedes, because I just walked out of my house, and everybody thought I was undercover police, and it became very, very dangerous very quickly for me. I was stabbed 13 times down the left-hand side, and I got up, and I went back out and said, you didn't kill me the first time, it's on. And then I got attacked with a mallet, and I got up. And then I got attacked with a crowbar, and I got up. But in that time, the police kind of took me to the side and said, you're in the wrong place. And I was puzzled, and so I ended up in a treatment centre, and I was there for a year, and it was torture, absolute torture, because I've been 9 years old, diagnosed diabetic, looked after myself all my life, as such. And then I'm in a treatment centre. I've got no money, no property, no prestige. I've got no way to sell my wares to feel better. I'm not controlling anything. Everybody's controlling me. They're feeding me bread. I'm putting on weight. I'm not very happy in my own skin. And in that treatment centre, they used to give me stuff to do, but my life experience left me unable to respond appropriately in society. So everything they gave me, they'd give me it in one hand and then take it away in another. Because if they gave me something to do, like ask me a question, do I refrain from talking about people behind their backs? Do I walk away when others begin to gossip? I'll be like, no, I fucking don't. And yes, I do. Yeah. And it wasn't appropriate for the environment. So I was told to just hang on to my seat, hold tight. And I did, I white knuckled it for a year. But the last 6 weeks of my treatment, a woman was coming back, I shared a room with, and she kept coming in saying, oh, this woman's 6 weeks sober, she's talking about God. I'm like, right. She's saying she's recovered and she's talking about God. I'm like, And the Cocaine Anonymous meeting was on a red light area in Crack Alley across the road, yeah. And I was adamant I wasn't going to walk down that street, because if I'm not right, the car will stop immediately, So I asked this girl to help me, and we walked arm in arm down the street to the meeting. And I ended up sitting next to the woman that had been carrying the message to me for 6 weeks. And when I heard her shout, I was like, it's you. So I got on board, and my experience of recovery has been interesting. So I was feral when I got here. I can look appropriate, act appropriate, but if you come near me, there's a glitch, and it appears scary. But the reality is it's me that's terrified. And I find a lot of us coming here, we look scary, but we're terrified, and so I had to manage that. And then, so I went through the steps. It was difficult, minimalistic, minimal inventory, was directed to the mental health team. I spent 3 years with them. I was medicated to be treated, because they said if I didn't allow myself to be medicated, they wouldn't interact with me. And then I was devastated with that, but I did as I was told. There was a lot of conflict in the fellowship because of that, because they say it's a program of abstinence. However, my life's on the line. I'm important. So I'd say don't let anyone tell you anything, especially if you've got complex trauma. We know a lot of people come in here abusing substances, but this is a different ballgame, and then I went into life. I worked for the NHS. I love driving. I've worked all over the country, nursing, and then, like I say, life got busy. I got married and I picked up, and it was brief, but it was the best experience, because what I learned from the 5-month relapse is about my illness. My illness, 95% in my mind, and trust me, it's in there and it's dangerous, but not today. Yeah. Because what I've learned is by doing the simple stuff, praying, gratitude, 2 pages of big book, and then I'll go quickly to sponsoring others. Because if I'm sponsoring others, I'm giving the same direction as I'm doing. Whether I do it or not, I'm still giving the direction. I'm doing my best, and it's interesting because I learned 5 years ago what I suffer with. I learned a really disciplined, clear-cut directive program, and I follow it to the best of my ability. Like I said, I'm not very well at the moment, so I do the best with what I've got. However, I do work a fantastic program. I help others, I sponsor, I'm in service, I'm chair of public information, which goes out into community. I've done service work in hospitals and institutions. I've been frontline in the meetings. I'm still a foot soldier. I do 3 meetings a week. And my learning through being here is it doesn't matter how clean you are. You come to the meeting, you get involved, but you go into the subcommittees and you see how we operate, because it's fun. I love fellowship, but the reason I love it is because I get invested in it. I get involved in it, and it don't take long. It might be 2 hours here or 1 hour there or 2 hours there or a day out to Ipswich, but it's just about getting involved, having your own experience, because we're all unique, we're all individual, and the message is in the book. The message is in the book. It also says it's a bridge to normal living. And I know for me, if I'm contingent on what's in the book, I can live a normal life. I am an addict. I'm proud to say that, because I have a solution to my problem. It's the 12 steps to recovery and a connection to a power. You know, I have my own God, but it's my God. You ain't having it. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited. I'm pleased to be. How long have I got, Dave? Because you like looking at me like, hurry up.
I think you're going to bolt in a couple of minutes.
Okay, yeah. So I come here to unify my fellows. I think we've done a great job today, you know, to carry a message of hope. You know, if all you hear is get a sponsor, get a big book, do as you're told. Shut your mouth, listen, because you know, fuck all about staying sober. It doesn't matter how sober you think you are, when your mind's on you, you ain't sober. And that's why we need spiritual advisors, sponsors, or closed mouth friends, you know, and just get involved and learn to not say maybe, just go, okay, I'm going to give that a whirl, you know. And my name's Patricia, I'm a recovered addict, and I'll leave it there.